The District Court Kathmandu has given permission to Nepal police to issue arrest warrants against 3 former ministers allegedly involved in the infamous Lalita Niwas land scam. The court gave permission to arrest Nepali Congress leader and former Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Vijay Kumar Gachadar, along with former Land Reforms Minister duo Dambar Shrestha and Chandradev Joshi. The Central Investigation Bureau of Nepal Police is currently investigating the Lalita Niwas land scam. Good evening, I'm Abhyuday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Meeting of top brass leaders, including the Speaker, to end Parliament obstruction ends inconclusively. Political parties reach a consensus on distribution of leaderships of parliamentary committees. The District Court Kathmandu issues arrest warrants against former ministers Vijay Kumar Gachadar, Dambar Shrestha and Chandradev Joshi for their alleged involvement in the Lalita Niwas land scam. Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi returns to Parliament for the first time since he was convicted in a criminal defamation case. Leaders of Congress and other opposition parties celebrate his return. And England storm into the quarterfinals of the FIFA Women's World Cup, defeating Nigeria 4-2 in a penalty shootout. Hosts Australia also book a place in the last 8 with a 2-0 win over Denmark. The meeting of top brass leaders of the 3 main political parties, along with the Speaker, held today in an effort to end the obstruction at the federal parliament, ended inconclusively. The meeting, held at the office of the Speaker, Dev Raj Khimire, could not reach an agreement on ending the parliament obstruction after the parties remained in their stance regarding the formation of a high-level investigation committee to probe into the recent 100-kilogram gold smuggling scandal. During the discussions, main opposition CPN-UML reiterated their stand on the formation of a high-level committee. However, leaders of the ruling alliance parties said that there was no need for the committee as the state mechanism is already investigating the gold scandal. After an agreement was not reached at today's meeting, parties held internal discussions today. Another round of meeting between the top brass leaders of the 3 main political parties and the Speaker to find a way to end the parliament obstruction is scheduled for 3 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, parties have reached a consensus on the distribution of leaderships of the parliamentary committees. As per the agreement, Nepali Congress will be leading 4 committees: CPN-UML 3, CPN Maoist Center 2, CPN Unified Socialist, Janata Samajwadi Party and Janmat Party 1 each. However, Rashtriya Swatantra Party and Rashtriya Prajantra Party will not be leading any parliamentary committees. The Parliament Secretariat has informed that the process to appoint chairpersons of the committees would start soon. Meanwhile, main opposition CPN-UML obstructed the National Assembly meeting today, demanding for the formation of a high-level investigation committee to probe into the recent gold smuggling scam. The National Assembly meeting has been adjourned until this Wednesday. The Kathmandu District Court has given the Nepal police permission to issue arrest warrants against 3 former ministers for their alleged involvement in the Lalita Niwas land scam. Among the 3 former ministers against whom arrest warrants have been issued is Nepali Congress leader and former Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Vijay Kumar Gachadar. Likewise, the Kathmandu District Court has also given the Nepal police permission to issue arrest warrants against former Land Reforms Minister duo Dambar Shrestha and Chandradev Joshi. The District Court had given the police permission yesterday to arrest the 3 former ministers and start investigations. The Supreme Court yesterday had directed the government to also investigate main decision makers in the Lalita Niwas land scam. The directive has paved way for launching a probe into cabinet ministers who had played a role in transferring Lalita Niwas land in the name of private individuals between the Nepali year 2066 to 2069. Then Prime Ministers Madhav Kumar Nepal and Baburam Bhattarai would also be investigated now. Prior to this, the corruption watchdog CIAA had dropped the case against Nepal and Bhattarai, citing lack of jurisdiction. When Nepal was the Prime Minister in the Nepali year 2066 to 2067, Gachadar was the Deputy Prime Minister as well as the Minister for Fiscal Planning and Infrastructure, while Shrestha was the Land Reforms Minister. Likewise, Joshi was the Land Reforms Minister when Bhattarai was the Prime Minister in the Nepali year 2069. The scam had materialized during that period. Former Minister Gachadar had made a proposal to the Council of Ministers to provide government land to land mafias. Likewise, former Minister Shrestha had presented a written opinion in favor of Gachadar. The cabinet meeting held by then Premier Nepal had made the decision in line with the proposal and implemented it. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal has directed lawmakers of his party CPN Maoist Centre to raise their participation at the Parliament. At the parliamentary party meeting of CPN Maoist Centre held at Singadwar earlier today, Premier Dahal directed the parliamentarians to increase their participation at the Parliament. Speaking to journalists after the meeting, CPN Maoist Centre Chief Whip Hitraj Pandey informed that Prime Minister Dahal had given a directive to the party's lawmakers to raise their participation for good governance, prosperity and social justice. Speaking at the meeting, Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Naran Kaji Shrestha stated that the government has the priority of bringing the Federal Education Act, Federal Civil Service Act and Police Adjustment Act. The Public Procurement Monitoring Office has blacklisted 23 construction companies for failing to meet project deadlines. The office issued a notice today with the list of companies that it has blacklisted for a minimum of 6 months to a maximum of 1 year. The list includes the infamous Pappu Construction, operated by Sumit Roniar, Ishwar Rimal's Natasha Construction Company, Janakpur's Navanirman Builders, Lalitpur's Chetan Construction and Panthar's Budathoki Construction Services, among others. Most of the companies were blacklisted upon the recommendation from the Division Road Office. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. What could be the reason for lesser number of female ward chairpersons at local levels? Your options are A, not mandatory, B, indifference of parties, and C, lack of public pressure. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. The government is preparing to reform the Prime Minister's employment program following widespread criticism for wasting funds in unproductive manner by employing people to remove weeds, chase away monkeys and livestock. Legworks are currently underway to provide skill programs to unemployed youths along with allowance. The government, through the revised program, intends to produce more masons, plumbers, construction and workers, among others. Government officials have said they are currently enlisting skills provider in all the 753 local levels. The revised program is expected to begin implementation from mid-September. The government has allocated 5,940 million rupees for the program in the ongoing fiscal year. The program has been in implementation since the Nepalese year 2075 with the aim of providing opportunities to unemployed workforce between ages of 18 to 59. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CIB of Nepal Police, has formed a probe committee under the leadership of SP Sanjay Singh Thapa to investigate into the 100-kilogram gold smuggling case. This comes after the Department of Revenue investigation handed over the responsibility to CIB of Nepal Police. Prime Minister Dahal had directed the department to hand over the probe documents to the CIB. The handover comes 20 days after the probe began for international and organized crime. CIB Chief Kiran Bajracharya formed the committee with other members including DSP and inspectors. It's time now for the international updates. Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has returned to Parliament for the first time since he was convicted in a criminal defamation case. The Congress party leader had lost his lawmaker status in March after he was sentenced to 2 years in jail. He was reinstated as MP today, 2 days after the Supreme Court suspended his conviction. Congress leaders celebrated his return by shouting slogans and distributing sweets outside Parliament. Leaders of other opposition parties also expressed their joy over Gandhi's return to Parliament. Gandhi is a Congress party MP from Wayanad in the southern state of Kerala. Political observers say his reinstatement as a lawmaker is a boost for India, an alliance formed by 26 opposition parties, as it means that Gandhi can contest the national election next year. The alliance hopes to take on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party BJP in the election. The case against Gandhi was filed over comments he made about Modi's surname in a 2019 election rally. His conviction and disqualification had sparked protests from opposition parties, which accused the governing BJP of targeting him. The BJP had denied this, saying due judicial process was followed in the case. Track restoration works were underway today, a day after a passenger train derailed in southern Pakistan, killing at least 30 people and injuring more than 80. Around 10 cars of a passenger train derailed in Nawab Shah district in the southern province of Sindh, roughly 275 kilometers from the country's largest city, Karachi. Accidents on Pakistan's decaying rail system are common, and successive governments have for years been trying to secure funds to upgrade the rail network as part of China's Belt and Road Initiative for infrastructure projects. A major train crash in Sindh in 2021 killed 56 people and injured more than 100. Cambodian King Norodom Sihamoni has appointed Hun Manet as the new Prime Minister after incumbent Prime Minister Samdech Tekno Hun Sen announced he was stepping down. The monarch signed a royal decree to designate 45-year-old Hun Manet as the new Prime Minister for a 5-year term government following a request from Hun Sen. Hun Manet, along with his new cabinet members, will need to win a vote of confidence in the National Assembly slated for 22nd of August in order to officially become the new Prime Minister, and he is expected to be sworn in on the same day. The appointment came after the ruling Cambodian People's Party of Hun Sen won a landslide victory in the July 23rd general election, gaining 120 out of 125 seats in the National Assembly. Hun Manet is currently a member of the CPP's Standing Committee and a Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces. Hun Sen announced on 26th of July that he would step down as the Prime Minister after having held the position for more than 38 years, handing the reins of power to his eldest son, Hun Manet. However, the 71-year-old leader said he will remain the CPP's president and will take the position as president of the Senate in a Senate election on 25th of February next year. Firefighters in one of the most severely flooded areas of China were busy setting up drainage systems today to provide relief for the inundated city of Zhuozhou. Main roads of the urban area are still flooded. Firefighters have set up long pipes totaling about 130 meters to direct the water to nearby drainage reservoirs. These pipes can handle a substantial amount of water, around 4,000 cubic meters every hour. Zhuozhou is one of the cities in northern China that was hit hardest by heavy flooding in the aftermath of Typhoon Doksuri. More than 20 people have reportedly been killed in Beijing and the surrounding Hebei province since the flooding began, while 14 were reported to have died over the weekend in the Chinese city of Shulan due to flooding. Authorities have yet to provide an overall death toll for the entire country. Thousands of supporters of Niger's coup leaders flocked to a stadium in the capital, Niamey, appearing undaunted by the threat of military intervention from West Africa's regional bloc as its ultimatum to reinstate the president expires. On Niamey's streets, there were also sporadic displays of support for but no signs of opposition to the junta, which has said it will not cave in to external pressure to stand down following the July 26 power grab. Rippling cheers greeted every sentence of the speech read by a representative of the new army-led administration to the packed crowd at the stadium, who stressed the junta's determination to stay in power. The seventh coup in West and Central Africa in 3 years has rocked the Sahel region, one of the poorest in the world. Given its uranium and oil riches and its pivotal role in a war with Islamist militants, Niger holds importance for the U.S., Europe, China, and Russia. The Philippines told China today it will not abandon a disputed shoal in the South China Sea after it accused China's Coast Guard of using water cannons and dangerous moves to prevent Manila from sending supplies to its troops occupying the reef. The Chinese Coast Guard's use of water cannons on Saturday was not the first, as it also sprayed water at Manila's boats on a mission to supply food and water for a handful of troops living aboard the Rusty warship located inside the 2nd Thomas Shoal on November 2021. China said it had earlier told Manila not to send ships to the shoal and not to send construction materials used for large-scale repair and reinforcement to the warship after it learned of this recent supply plan, the Chinese Coast Guard said in a statement today. China claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, an assertion rejected internationally, while Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, Taiwan, and the Philippines have various claims to certain areas. Meanwhile, China has urged the Philippines side to honor its commitment and stop infringing activities in the waters of Renai Jiao. The Philippines sent 4 ships, 2 supply ships and 2 Coast Guard ships into the waters of Renai Jiao without authorization last Saturday, despite China's repeated dissuasion and warnings. Renai Jiao is part of the Nansha Islands in the South China Sea. In accordance with the law, the China Coast Guard took corresponding measures and expelled the ships carrying illegal building materials from the waters, the spokesperson's statement said. Sudan is facing the risk of epidemic outbreak as the country's healthcare system is on the verge of collapse due to the armed conflict. The armed conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces in Sudan has lasted for more than 100 days, and the humanitarian situation there has become increasingly grim. Since entry into August, several rounds of heavy rains have lashed Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, marking the arrival of the rainy season this year. The humid and hot environment in rainy season is catalyzing breeding of germs and mosquitoes that spread diseases in this season, leading to the spread of many infectious diseases on a large scale. Violent clashes have continued in the greater capital area, comprising the capital Khartoum, Omdurman, and Khartoum North. The basic public service system in these cities are almost shut down, and the collection and treatment of garbage and the cleaning and disinfection of streets have suspended. A house collapsed into the Mendenhall River in the Alaskan capital following glacial floods on Saturday. Record flooding struck the city of Juneau on Saturday after a glacial dam outburst, destroying at least 1 structure and prompting city officials to issue evacuation orders for residents on 1 street. Glacial outburst flooding happens when trapped water escapes through cracks in thinning ice dams, a phenomenon that has increased around the world as a result of climate change. The water level of Mendenhall Lake reached nearly 15 feet yesterday, a 3-foot rise over the previous record set in 2016 and 5 feet over moderate flood levels. Zookeepers at Whipsnade Zoo, just north of London, celebrated the birth of a Grevy's zebra, the world's most threatened zebra, whose natural habitat is in the Horn of Africa. Video footage released today showed the full named Zinabi, which means raindrop in the Ethiopian language of Amharic, trotting alongside its mother Henna. After Henna's 13-month-long pregnancy, the zoo announced the birth of its future stallion in a statement, calling him a vital addition to the collaborative global breeding program for the species. Grevy's zebras are listed as endangered by the IUCN Red List, with fewer than 2,000 breeding males and females left in the wild. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.